Welcome to today's Explainer. All right, let's just jump right in because today we are unpacking a literally pivotal moment from Google I/O 2026. We're talking about an event that featured a totally jaw-dropping product launch, but one that instantly exposed the massive, high-stakes race happening right now in AI-driven software development. It's wild. To set the stage here, I really want you to consider this insane scenario. What happens when you build an entire OS in 12 hours, but then you go and break your users' computers on the exact same day? Honestly, this crazy contrast perfectly captures the launch of Google's newest developer tool, and it sets up what we're going to call the micro story of today's explainer. So, what exactly caused all this chaos? Well, meet Anti-Gravity 2.0. This is Google's brand new standalone desktop app built entirely around autonomous AI agent orchestration. It completely replaces the old Gemini CLI. It's powered by Gemini 3.5 Flash, which Google says is 4 times faster than rival frontier models. But the real magic here? It launches multiple autonomous AI agents that work completely in parallel. It's like having a whole team of developers coding simultaneously. Now, this brilliantly illustrates the massive disconnect between Google's slick stage presentation and the actual reality for developers. On stage, the pitch was absolutely mesmerizing. Google claimed Anti-Gravity 2.0 built the core framework of a working operating system in just 12 hours, spinning up 93 parallel subagents for under $1,000 in compute. I mean, that is a jaw-dropping technical benchmark. But the reality? An absolute nightmare. Google pushed an automatic update that exact same Tuesday, and get this, with no rollback path. None. It straight up wiped out terminals, file explorers, and editing tools from existing installations. Developers literally opened their laptops to find their perfectly functional IDEs completely converted into chat interfaces. No warning, just gone. You can imagine the frustration, right? Especially if you've ever had a rogue software update brick your workflow right before a huge deadline. The community backlash was immediate and fierce. The Google AI Developers Forum and Reddit absolutely blew up within hours. One developer really hit the nail on the head, bluntly stating that this reeks of non-technical people shipping code to production. Ouch. They didn't just ship a buggy new tool, they essentially deleted their users' working environments. And an execution failure of that magnitude, it just hands momentum right over to the competitors. Part 1, the macro strategy, distribution over benchmarks. Let's zoom out a bit. To really understand how a rushed launch like Anti-Gravity 2.0 actually happened, we have to look at a massive company-wide philosophy shift over at Google. They are fundamentally prioritizing distribution over benchmarks. Just look at what was conspicuously absent from their keynote. There was no Gemini 4.0 frontier model announced to challenge Anthropic's current heavy hitter, Mythos. Now, in the past, missing out on the top-tier model race might have looked like a massive weakness. But instead of apologizing for not having the absolute smartest AI model in the room, CEO Sundar Pichai leaned hard into a totally different competitive advantage. So instead of chasing benchmark scores, Google is just weaponizing its massive scale. The magic number for them? 13. That is the number of distinct Google products that already have over 1 billion users each. Let that sink in. 1 billion. And 5 of those actually top 3 billion. I'm going to overwhelm you just a bit with this list of integrations because it really makes the point. Search AI Mode alone has 1 billion monthly users. AI Overviews, 2.5 billion. Then you add in Gemini Spark running as a 24/7 personal cloud agent, Ask YouTube, daily brief integrations, and even the new Android XR intelligent eyewear shipping this fall. What you really need to take away from this is Google's big bet. Deep, deep integration. AI isn't going to be a destination you go out of your way to visit. It's just going to be baked directly into the tools you're already using every single day. They firmly believe that sheer ubiquity is always going to beat out raw benchmark scores. Part 2. The battlefield, the 4-way agentic coding race. So, will that distribution-first strategy actually work for highly technical developers? Well, let's look at the battlefield. We're looking at a macro market that barely even existed 18 months ago. And now, boom, we have 4 incredibly well-resourced giants running completely different playbooks. You've got Anthropic quietly taking over the enterprise space, OpenAI aggressively using price cuts for mass adoption, Google pushing parallel agents and scale but stumbling right out of the gate, and Microsoft quietly threading its tools directly into the operating system itself. Let's break these down, starting with this number, 4%.
Now, that might sound small, but when we're talking about all global software development, it is absolutely staggering. Anthropic's Claude Code quietly doubled its reach to account for 4% of all public GitHub commits worldwide in just the month of May alone. Crazy, right? They've also blown past OpenAI in enterprise adoption, locking down massive deals like deploying to 364,000 professionals across 136 countries at PwC. They aren't shouting from the rooftops. They're just letting the adoption data speak for itself. Now contrast that stealthy enterprise approach with OpenAI's Codex. They are sitting on 4 million weekly users, and their strategy is pure aggressive expansion. They just launched mobile apps on iOS and Android, and Sam Altman is literally offering 2 free months to any company that switches over from a competing tool. Make no mistake, that is a direct, hyper-aggressive shot at stealing Claude Code's enterprise customers. But then we have the sleeping giant. Microsoft Copilot is the quiet fourth force in this whole market, and frankly, they operate at a completely different altitude. Their distribution is just unmatched. We're talking over 100 million GitHub developers and 1.4 billion Windows devices. Microsoft is weaving Copilot directly into Windows Recall and Azure. Think about it. If agentic coding becomes a native part of the OS, rather than a standalone tool you have to download, Microsoft is perfectly positioned to become an unavoidable default layer. So how does a company actually win this developer war? And more importantly, what does it mean for the tools we're all going to be using tomorrow? Well, our sources point to 3 absolutely crucial steps. First, achieve capability parity. The gap in raw intelligence between these models is shrinking fast. They're all incredibly smart now. Second, flawless execution. As Google painfully learned this week, you cannot just delete your users' tools and break their workflows without warning. The execution gap is where this war will be won or lost. And third, structural lock-in. The ultimate winner is going to be the one that integrates seamlessly into the daily enterprise workflows and infrastructure we already rely on. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. When an AI can literally code an entire operating system framework in just 12 hours, will developers actively choose the smartest standalone agent on the market, or will they simply surrender to the one they literally can't uninstall? It's a fascinating dynamic, and it's one that's going to completely dictate the future of big tech monopolies and exactly how the software of tomorrow actually gets built. All right, that wraps us up. Thanks so much for joining me as we unpacked this wild race, and I really hope this leaves you with a much clearer picture of the agentic coding war. Catch you next time.